What is up, all you individuals out there? It's me, full-time anime man, and welcome to part 5 to What If Deku Had a Shadow Wolf. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let's go ahead and get into it. One more thing before I get started with this video, I think it's important that you all know a thing about our three main characters. Jigoku, Koi-san, and Tomura. Let's start with Koi-san. She's well fit. Size down from her chest to her waist, 36, 24, 36. Personality, logical, a go-getter, perseverance. She's kind, if given kindness, but get on her bad side, you will have a bad time. However, deep down, Koi-san is a hardcore masochistic pervert. She has a fetish of being dominated by someone who's just as, if not more stronger than she is. She's the type of girl that wants to inspire other people to be stronger for themselves and to change the world for the best. A world where people are brave. A world where people can save themselves. A world where police officers and firefighters get true recognition. A world without pro-heroes. The only hero that she actually likes is Midnight, for personal reasons. She also really likes sex jokes. That's about all you need to know. Moving on. Jigoku. She's well fit, flat chest like a pancake. Caring, timid. Jigoku is the type of girl that prefers to be a follower rather than a leader. Reasons is because she doesn't want to think that... Reasons is because she doesn't feel like she's capable of being a leader, and she's afraid that if there ever was a chance that she could lead, her number one fear was that she would be letting everyone in her team down. That's why she highly looks up to Koi-san. She's strong, she's smart, caring, and she thinks Koi-san is so much more than she is. But what she doesn't know is that Koi-san looks up to her more than anyone in the world. Tomura, well fit, brave, daring, only caring to his family members or ones closest to him. He's cunning and aware. Tomura is the type of guy that challenges all who he deems a little too threatening. He's very caring for the people that is around him, and if you mess with them, he's gonna get involved with the conflict as well. Tomura also looks up to Koi-san for reasons to get stronger. He's always aiming high and wanting to break his limits, but most importantly, he wants to impress Koi-san. But little does he know, she's always trying to impress him. That's all you need to know. Let's go ahead and get into the story. Where we last left off, Koi-san was confronted by 7 powerful Norse deities: Horenir, Magni, Modi, Njord, Vithord, Vali, and Sol. All of them, well, except for 2, beat Koi-san into submission. And in the last moment before her powers could be taken from her, Koi-san tapped into a new ability that allows her to force other people's shadows to turn on their possessors, to fight for her. But in doing so, it left the cities in shambles. There were major casualties, and people have perished because of it. She escaped, but then she was attacked by a man who had the ability to conjure blades from any parts of his body, who badly stabbed Koi-san, leaving her in a pool of her own blood in an alleyway. We pick up where we left off. Just a few minutes after Koi-san pressed the button on her beacon, Tomura, along with Jigoku, ran out of the car and followed the tracker of where it says she is. Tomura says, "Quickly, this way." They run, and soon they find her, but she's barely alive. She lays there in a pool of her own blood, barely breathing. She was cold to the touch. She was on death's doorstep. Tomura quickly picks her up. Koi-san! Koi-san! Oh my goodness, what happened? She's lost a lot of blood, and she's really cold. Quickly, Jigoku, you need to use your fire to cauterize her wounds. My fire, but... Quickly, you need to do it before we lose her. Jigoku, please! Jigoku looks down at her hands. Her mind was running 1,000 miles per hour. She never wanted to use her father's fire power. But her friend, no, her sister, desperately needed her help. But her father's fire, but her sister's life. No, I'm an ice conjurer. That's all I'll ever be. No, I need to save her. I'm ice. I'm fire. I'm ice. I need fire. I'm ice. She then clenches both her hands, turning them into fists as they shake violently, and the left side of her body was engulfed in flames. I'm fire. She damn near set the entire alleyway on fire, but she manages to get control of it and focuses her fire onto her index finger, and she seals the wounds, closing them. They quickly get her into the car, and they drive so fast that it actually caught the attention of the police. Not that they had anything better to do. Sure, there's not people dying around them. They were in hot pursuit of their vehicle, but then Tomura used his ability to divide them, creating a deep crater so that they could not follow them. They quickly ushered to the underground bunker, and immediately the doctors took Koi-san away. They do everything that they can to stabilize her, but unfortunately, Koi-san did went flatlined. But then she was brought back. Such an outcome frightened Tomura and Jigoku to a point that they were both moved to tears. After a while of waiting, the doctor came out to inform Jigoku, Tomura, and All For One of Koi-san's condition. Tell me, doctor, what's her condition? Asked All For One. The doctor goes on to tell them that she's in a comatose state. She has suffered multiple broken bones, along with a collapsed lung, and body stabs to her torso. She was lucky that the blades missed two of her vital organs, because that would appear what the person was aiming for. If he had aimed a little bit more closer to the left, chances are he would have struck her in the heart. But for her lower abdomen, she was struck in her mid-intestines. So she's going to need to be fed through a tube for a while, until further notice. But unfortunately, the person was successful in doing some permanent damages. For one blade pierced her upper left kidney, so it had to be removed. She's going to have to be more careful from now on. Hearing that upset Tomura so much that he punched the solid wall that was near him. He actually managed to crack it, but he broke his hand bone in the process. But he didn't care about that. All For One would say, Tomura, calm down. I can't calm down. Someone I consider my sister was nearly killed. I swear whoever did this, I'm going to kill him or her, and I won't rest until Koi-san wakes up. I will not rest. All For One walks over to Tomura, places a hand on his shoulder, and says, I understand, young one. With his other hand, he chops him in the neck, knocking him out. I understand. A few hours pass. Tomura wakes up, and he realizes that his hand was bandaged. He then walks out of the room and goes to Koi-san's room, and there was Jigoku, crying next to her bedside. I'm so sorry, Koi-san. I'm so sorry. She looks at Tomura and says, I should have been there with her. She was being pursued by 7 gods, and I let her go at it alone. Tomura walks over to her and comforts her, saying, You know it's not your fault. You and I both know that Koi-san can be stubborn sometimes. Not to mention, she is a go-getter. She's stronger than the both of us combined. So much skills and potential. Jaigoku says, I know. That's why she's amazing. That's why she inspires me more than any hero, noble person, anyone in this world. She's one of a kind, and I'm lucky to have her as a sister. She's always telling me to aim high. Tomura says, I know. And I'm sorry about my outburst. No, it's okay. You don't have to apologize. I'm worried too. The doctor said they don't know when she's gonna wake up. Saying that made her cry even more, and she hugs Tomura and Tomura hugs her back. Soon she leaves the room because it hurt her too much to see Koe-san like that. And now it's just Koe-san and Tomura. He sighs and he sits down. He stares at Koe-san for quite a minute until Tomura says, Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, I'd want you to hear me say something. I've had this deep down inside of me for a long time. Your love toys and twists my body into disarray. All 4 seasons torment my physicality. A summer sun, scorching, burning me like a roaring fire. Bitter winter to freeze the heart, as frostbite set deep within. Sprouting through fresh shoots of passion that will inevitably golden with age. Each cycle you set my body through. Every rainy day, summer swim, forges a strong bond. Every passing moment. With your kind microcosm of sincerity, all I see through the raging storm. Your beautiful smile, your stunning soul, will be the sunrise that leads me home. He then stands up, gets on one knee, and he grabs one of Koe-san's hands and says, I've wanted to tell you this from the moment I felt this way. Looking at her face, a tear runs down his face, and he says, I love you. With all my heart. Can you please wake up so I can tell you for real? All he heard was the sound of the heart monitor beeping. He looks at the ground. Please wake up. Please. 2 weeks pass. Tomura had not left Koe-san's side. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't slept. He hasn't drank in 2 weeks. He was dehydrated and started to lose strength. Jaigoku walked into the room and told Tomura that she's going to go back to school. Okay, but be careful. Those gods are still out there. I will be. Are you sure you're okay, Tomura? I'm fine. You don't look so well. I said I'm fine. Just go. Okay, but please get some rest. She leaves and makes it on time for class. Before class gets started, everyone asks her how her sister is doing, and Jaigoku tells them that she's in a coma. They all show sympathy, telling her that they're sorry that this happened to her, and ask questions if there's ever a chance that the doctors said when she'll wake up, to which she said the doctors aren't really sure when. Mina speaks up, saying, Hey, we should go visit her and bring her a few get-well gifts. They all agree, but Jaigoku tells them that they can't, because she's in a special hospital where only family can visit. Toru Hagakure says, Well, can we make her a get-well card and we all sign it and you bring it to her? Sure. I can do that. Mina says, Alright, well, I'll get the glitter. It's gonna have to wait, said Aizawa. And he will go on to tell them about the sports festival, and that its sole purpose is so that the Class 1A students can show off their quirks and catch the attention of some hero organizations to gain applications and invitations. But Uraraka asks if it's really a good idea to start such an event as a UA student was hospitalized. What exactly is the school doing about it? It's not up to me, Uraraka. However, if it was, I'd have this thing looked into. But Principal Nezu says otherwise. After class, everyone gathered around and they talked about the 7 people and Tokoyami who attacked the USJ. Yaoyorozu mentioned that Koe-san says that they were Norse gods, but would also mention that the gods apparently existed over 5,000 years ago. Could it be possible that they're immortal? Bakugo says, well, we won't know that until we see them again and study their abilities. And unfortunately, Koe-san was the only person to see them and know what they're made of. Jigoku gets an angered look at Bakugo, and she says, don't use her as an excuse, Bakugo. What? Do not use Koe-san as an excuse to want a rematch with the gods. She told you not to challenge them. She told you to run, and you ended up getting yourself knocked out. Do not use my sister as an excuse, Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo gets angry, and he gets up and he leaves the room saying, I don't need any of this. But before he opens the door, about to leave, everyone from UA University was standing outside the door of Class 1A. Bakugo says, who are you extras and what do you want? A bunch of them would go on to tell them that they heard about what happened at the USJ and heard that they ran away like a couple of chickens. Bakugo lets off an explosion in his hand, saying, what did you say? A purple-headed boy speaks up, saying, you really think we're scared of you, man? We heard that you got your butt knocked out in one hit. And we heard that someone in Class 1A stood back and bought you guys time to escape. I gotta say, some classmates you are. He even leans in and he looks at Jigoku and says, some sister. Bakugo and everyone in Class 1A does not say anything as the rest of the students just leave, for they do feel ashamed, because a large part of them wanted to stay even though Koe-san told them to run. They wanted to stay and fight by her side. Bakugo, however, just wanted to redeem himself for losing. Soon, Jigoku gets in the car. Korigiri picks her up with a very large get well card in hand. She was taken home alone that night. The house was quiet and lonely. She didn't feel like making a complex meal, just a simple ramen cup. It was getting dark, and Jigoku decided to go to bed. Getting into her pajamas, she laid in bed, just thinking about her adopted siblings and where her life has brought her to. She prays that the next time that she sees Koe-san that she'll be awake. That night, when she slept, Jigoku had a nightmare that she would lose everything. She'd be willing to say goodbye to the fortune that her adopted father provided her, but she would never be ready to say goodbye to the family that she grew up with. That night, she dreamed about her deceased father rising from the abyss that Koe-san took him to, and he would take her back. She woke up in a cold sweat. It was 4 a.m., and she could not go back to sleep. A few hours later, Jigoku goes back to school, and Mina calls her over. Hey, Jigoku! Yeah, what is it? Asked Jigoku. Hey, did you leave the get well card by Koe-san's bedside? No, I didn't. I'm not ready to see her like that again. Oh, well, it's okay. Hey, I gotta tell you something. Me and Yaoyorozu, we've been talking, and we think that we should form a group where it's just us girls, chatting it up for a few hours. Jigoku was confused. Group? What's that? You know, where we hang out and we do stuff. Oh, and Yaoyorozu would pay for all of it. Wait, I I will. Look, the important thing is that we do it in Koi-san's name, so that when she comes back, she could be the head leader of our group. Shoto thinks for a second. Yeah, I guess she would like that. For a moment, she thought that they were talking about bounty hunting, like how her and Koi-san and Tomura do. Great! We need to come up with a pledge to make it official. How about girls go to college to get more knowledge, and boys go to Jupiter to get more stupider? Like that. Remember, Jigoku, aka Todoroki, is still as oblivious as in the original material. So she says, but the boys are over there, they're in college with us. Mina says, I'll teach you about it another day, Todoroki. Before class gets started, Ida goes up to Jigoku and asks if there's a way that he could get his right arm shadow back, because lately he's been sleeping uncomfortably because every time he leans up against something, his dominant arm phases through things. But Jigoku apologizes, saying that she can't really do anything about it because shadows are Koi-san's things. But she does also give him caution, telling him to keep his arm in well-lit areas so that way he does not phase through things. Soon, class gets started, and we skip 2 weeks. The sports festival has started, and everyone was outside in the stadium. Koi-san, still in a coma, and Jigoku wishing that she was there with her. Now, just to get to more urgent matters, I'm going to just say that Jigoku drops out of the sports festival. After she heard about the last round, will be a 1v1, where 2 people will fight against each other. They could either have physical combat, or they could use their quirks. The thought of such a thing annoyed Jigoku, and so she does a compelling speech about how she thinks that violence is unnecessary, and between all the bleeding and fighting, she'd rather be reading and writing. She'd rather live in a world where she and all the people in the world can just walk the street without having to have a worry. I just want to stand for truth, justice, and freedom. I don't want to stand for violence and hurting one another and genocide. And my God, I gotta say, for a school that's supposed to teach us about truth, justice, and freedom, you sure do glorify more violence. Just forget all this. I don't want to be in the sports festival. She then walks off, and she is accompanied by almost everyone in her class, and Class 1B. It may have been a compelling speech, but it wasn't that compelling. Come on, why are they leaving? After that speech, everyone decides to take a short recess, and Ida gets a call on his phone, and it is at this point that he's been informed about his brother's encounterment with the horrific stain. Suddenly, from Koi-san's room, a tear runs down her face, and Tomura notices this, and he runs to inform a doctor. The doctor opens her eyelid and flashes a light to see if he could get a reaction, but nothing. The doctor explains that Koi-san may be having a traumatic dream of the last moment that she was in before she was put into a coma. Tomura flops back down onto his seat, and the doctor looks at Tomura and says, Tomura, I've been your doctor ever since you were little, and I'm looking at you right now. You are in the worst condition. You're dehydrated, you're exhausted, you haven't eaten. You're killing yourself because you don't want to leave her side. But what's the point when she's ready to wake up and you're 6 feet under? There's going to be no point at all. He sits down next to him. Listen, I know you're worried about her, but you need to be strong for yourself as well as for her. Now please, leave this room, get some fresh air, and get some water in your system. Tomura sighs, gets up, walks towards the door, looks at Koi-san one more time, and leaves. Now it's just the doctor and Koi-san. The doctor then grins, and he walks over to Koi-san's bedside as he caresses one side of her face and says, It's all going according to plan. The doctor's eyes emitted this light blue glow. We then transitioned outside in the desert. The sun was on the horizon, ready to set, as the area around him was shrouded in the color orange light. Tomura started thinking about himself where he is in life right now. He wishes that he was stronger. He wishes that he was better. All the times that he, Jigoku, and Koi-san went on bounty hunts, Koi-san always found a way to make it easy. It's because she's worked so hard to make herself better, stronger, smarter. Man, I wish I could be like her. Confident, powerful, a go-getter, such capabilities. And if her powers come from the moon, he then points to the setting sun, then I wish I had the powers of the sun. Something to complement her moon powers. As he continues to point at the sun flickers, even though nothing flew in front of it. Wait, did the sun just flicker? The sun was now setting. The clouds were covering its solar light, but Tomura could see this glowing tiny dot just in front of the clouds. What is that? The dot gets bigger and bigger before Tomura could even act. The unidentified flying object then struck him in the chest. He falls to the ground, smoke emanating from his body. He was in so much shock, he didn't realize that he's been impaled. He feels intense heat coming from his chest, and pain starts building up. He lets out a blood-curdling scream, and the intense heat intensifies. His chest glows like a molten red, and his clothes, along with the rest of him, catches fire. He screams even louder than before as he tries to crawl to the front entry of the bunker, hoping that someone will usher outside and help him. But before he could be spotted, his body was then engulfed completely in flames, turning his body into ashes, with no bones left behind. A few days pass. No one has seen Tomura. Naturally, they just assume that he went home, but then All For One asked Jigoku if she's ever seen him, to which she said no. That being said, All For One had a couple of his men in search of him. This scares Jigoku. Is she going to lose another sibling? Is Tomura even okay? She walks to Koi-san's room and talks to Koi-san, even bringing her the get well card that everyone in class made for her. She even commented that even Bakugo signed it. She would even go on to tell Koi-san that Mina Ashido and Momo Yaoyorozu started an all-girls group in her name. She would also go on to tell her about how she spoke up at the sports festival and that she's had no idea what she was saying. It was just words coming out. You really have rubbed off on me in some way, Koi-san. She chuckles and says, Koi-san, in case you could hear me, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. Do you remember the first time that we met? I always look back at that day when you reached out to me and you helped me up. I've always looked at you as some sort of guardian angel that fell from heaven. You're my guardian angel. She then gets up, touches one side of Koi-san's facial cheek, and she says, I love you. And she kisses her facial cheek. She starts to tear up, and she ushers out the room into her own private room, where she curled up into a ball, and after a while, by herself, she then heard a knock at her door. Come in, said Jigoku. All For One enters, asking her what's wrong. She would go on to tell All For One why she's sad, obviously, with Tomura missing and Jigoku asleep. All For One comforts her, giving her the best advice that he could. That could possibly make her feel better. Saying to always hold your head up. To never give up hope. He would also go on to tell Jigoku that there may be a way that they could help Koi-san wake up sooner. Really? What can we do? We fade to black. It's the next day, and Jigoku is back at school, and no one has found the remains of Tomura. Shoto enters the class. With time still passing, Shoto draws a Canis lupus wolf with a crow in its mouth. You see, this is just to show how much she hates Tokoyami. Ida has not shown up to class that day. Soon, class does get started, and Aizawa responds to Jaigoku about her speech during the sports festival. He does not bastardize her, but he does not praise her as well, excuse me. He shows them their applications, and of course, Bakugo having the most applications. Jaigoku speaks up, saying, "You see what I'm talking about? You all want to know why we only got one application? It's because the only reason why is because of Bakugo's quirk. Just because we didn't fight in the sports festival and stain the ground with the blood of the innocent." Excuse me, didn't mean to yell. "That's enough, Jaigoku. No, don't you try to silence me, Aizawa, okay? My sister and I told you in the first place, from the first moment that you pulled that bluff bullcrap, that we did not want to be heroes. We wanted to be child psychologists, but I guess you didn't quite understand that in your language. You lied to us, Aizawa. You told us that Nezu would be our teacher, but you lied. So don't try to shut my voice down just because I'm speaking the truth. And I'm going to tell you this right now, that by the time, or if there's ever a chance that my sister wakes up, or even by tomorrow, I might not even be here, and she and I won't come back to this school." She sits down, and school comes to an end. And Jaigoku decided to walk home alone that day. By the time that she's halfway there, a red car pulls up next to her, and 3 men wearing plague doctor masks exits. "Well, well, if it isn't the Ice Queen of All For One." They surround her. She looked unfazed by their appearance. "Hey, what's wrong, little girl? You got nothing to say?" "You know, our boss doesn't like being targeted. Unfortunately, he decided he wanted All For One and his henchmen gone. Now, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours." Hello, all you individuals. Future Anime Man here. Just a quick saying, I forgot to add this in, but it is at this moment that Jaigoku is coming to a shocking conclusion that maybe it wasn't the gods that fatally stabbed Koe-san, because when the last time she saw them, they didn't have weapons as far as she saw. So she hypothesized that maybe it was Overhaul's group. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Hope you're all enjoying the video. She slowly looks up at the hulky one and says, "Can any of you have a sort of quirk that involves knives?" "Well, that's a strange question to ask. Why?" "I'm just curious." "Well, I'd say that's none of your damn business. Now, I'm gonna ask you again. Do you want it the easy way or the ooh?" Jaigoku then strikes the man in the face, causing him great pain. She then turns around to face the other masked men, and she fights them with tremendous strength, knocking them all into submission. She then turns back to the bulky one, who slowly regains his composure. She quickly takes her backpack off, and she swings it upwards, like an uppercut, swinging it at the man's chin, causing him to fall backwards. She runs off into a small alleyway that had a dead end. The men quickly follow her and say, "Well, it was pretty foolish to ambush yourself like this. It's time for you to die, Ice Queen Elsa." Jaigoku smiles like a girl who's lost all senses. She then extends both of her hands out, and she claps her hands together, and from the walls that surrounded them, sharp ice daggers pierces all the men, causing them great pain. Soon, a pool of blood forms on the ground as the blood drizzles down the tips of the ice daggers that pierces their bodies. Jaigoku approaches the men and says, "Okay, now I'm gonna give y'all some choices. 3 of them. 1, you tell me what I know and I'll let you live. 2, I could put more ice daggers in you and cause you even greater pain. 3, You don't tell me what I want to know, and I still fill you with more ice daggers. The choice is yours. You make your choice. Now tell me about the guy with the knife quirk. One of the men then tells Jaigoku everything she wants to know, telling her about the person's name, saying that his name is Kenshi. I don't know if that's his real name in the anime, but I'm just kind of pulling the names out of my butt. And he has the ability to conjure blades from his body, but it's not strong enough, and he needs to use their boss's quirk to enhance his quirk usage. Now please stop this pain. Where is he? He's probably at the hideout. Where is the hideout? Before the man could answer, he passes out from shock. Well, he's not gonna make it. She then looks at the other remaining man, and she asks the same question. Oh, so thanks for telling me what I want to know, boys. Thank you, gentlemen, for the good information. Have a nice day. She then uses her ice powers to jump over the men, and the men ask, Hey, we told you what you wanted to know, now let us go. Oh yeah, about that. See, I changed my mind. I remember that you guys wanted to kill me, so why would I let you live? Plus, someone in your group almost killed my sister. And let's consider this an eye for an eye. Only this time, I'll make sure the job is done, and you guys should go into shock right about now. They go into shock, and Jaigoku leaves them to die. She reports everything she's learned back to All for One, such as the person's name and his whereabouts of where he might be. All for One tells Jaigoku that he appreciates the information and tells her to wait for the next step. A few days passed, and Jaigoku was instructed by All for One to lead the assault on Overhaul's fortress. She was happy to take charge. They meet outside the residence of the hideout. She told the men to stand back as she covers the entire house in ice. When she did that, Overhaul's henchmen rose from the rebels of the house, and they tried to attack Jaigoku, but she shrouded them in ice, putting them in great discomfort. Where is Kenshi? Asked Jaigoku, to which the freezing men would mention a secret hatch. They follow it for a while until they see more people on the opposite end of the trail. Shoto wanted to freeze them, but one of the men who was following her asked if they could attack them head on, to which Jaigoku would allow it, and they charge at each other. They fight for a moment until the walls started warping, which made all the men lose their balance. Todoroki looks up, and just up above, a few feet away, there's a giant eye on the roof. She sees it, and she conjures a sharp ice dagger in its direction. It impales the man's eye, and a loud screaming ensues. Excuse me. The hallways then settle, and soon their fight comes to an end, and Jaigoku had the remaining men tortured for a moment before asking the whereabouts of a man by the name of Kenshi. Unfortunately, the men who warped the walls escaped. They all say the same thing. I'm not telling you anything. But one of the men broke and said, He's just down the hallway. And Shoto would show them no mercy and had them all killed. They all walk down the endless hallway, and soon they come across another group of men. They seem a bit more intimidating than the ones that they dealt with before. Before things went down, Jaigoku asked which one of them is called Kenshi with the knife ability. A man with white hair, who we are all familiar with, stood forward and said, Who's asking? Jaigoku started filling with rage, but she had to make sure this was the guy. So she took a deep breath and asked what his quirk is. The man starts chuckling, and he reaches into his pocket and says, Why don't I show you? He and other men inject themselves with the red serum They all inject themselves. Some of their muscles expanded out. Some had quirks with elemental abilities emanating off of their bodies. And Kenshi had blades appearing in random parts of his body. The blades bent and flexed, aimed right at Jigoku. As they start lunging themselves at her, and as they get closer and closer, Jigoku unexpectedly uses her fire side, and she lunges the fire at the men like full throttle flamethrower. Her flames flew at the enemies, turning most of them into ashes except for Kenshi, and his blades melted. He had third-degree burns on parts of his body, and he falls to the ground, quivering with fear. Shoto approaches him, and to Kenshi, it feels like an apex predator is coming at him with murderous intent. She then pushes him back to the ground, mounted on top of him, and would start bashing him in the face over and over again. And after a minute, she stopped. She finally takes a deep breath as blood began to drip down from her knuckles. Kenshi was knocked out cold. His face was swollen and his teeth, she showed him no mercy. Now, All For One instructed her not to kill him under any circumstances. So she shrouded the man's body in ice, capturing him, leaving his head exposed to breathe. Shoto ordered the rest of the men to check the rooms for anything that could lead to Overhaul or his whereabouts. But there was one more room that they didn't check. Jigoku goes in first, and the thing that she sees is a bed, toys on the ground, but the room was poorly lit. There was no windows, there was no light. It was just the room from outside that partially illuminated the room. She hears weeping in the corner, and she sees a silhouette of something cowering in the corner. Jigoku could tell that it's a small child. She was scared and delirious. Jigoku approaches the girl, trying to talk to her, saying, "Hey, it's okay. I can help you." Hearing those words made the girl calm down, and she reveals herself. She had long white hair, and her eyes were red. She also had one single horn on one side of her forehead. Her arms and legs were covered in medical bandages. Shoto then crouches down and extends her hand to the girl. The girl slowly reaches towards Jigoku and takes her by the hand, and Shoto says, "Don't worry, you're safe now." She then picks the girl up and orders the rest of the men to retreat, and soon they make it back to the bunker. All For One stares at the man that hurt his daughter. Kenshi begs for mercy, but All For One will save him for later for when Koi-san wakes up. They take him away, and Jigoku introduces the little girl that she stole from Overhaul to All For One. She's a little bit scared of All For One, for she hid closer behind Jigoku. All For One asked many questions about this girl, but Jigoku didn't know anything either because this girl doesn't talk. She must be a mute for whatever reason. All For One ordered the men to take her to a room, to which Eri did not want to leave Jigoku's side. But Jigoku assured her that she's safe with them, and to let these men take care of her now. The little girl takes her word for it, and she allows the men to take her away. 2 weeks passed, and Tomura still has never been found, and they expect the worst. And while everyone was out doing their internships, Jigoku had stayed at the bunker in Koi-san's room, just studying. Back in the city, Ida was wearing his hero suit, in hot pursuit of Stain, the man who hurt his brother. There were no Nomus attacked that night, so Stain was going to have to be more quiet when taking out his next target, the hero, Native, roaming the streets for patrol. Stain had him in his sights. Suddenly, Native felt a sharp pain on his lower leg. He looks down and sees that he was bleeding, and suddenly he found himself paralyzed. Stain then dragged him inside of an abandoned building, to which Ida saw this and he ushered in. While Stain monologued about how much of a disappointment Native is, Ida thinks about his right arm situation and decides that his legs and his left arm should hopefully be enough in this fight. Before Stain could bring his blade down on Native, Ida steps in, mentioning his brother Ingenium. Without even saying anything, Stain started charging at him. He was far quicker than Ida anticipated, so he started lashing at Ida with his blades to draw blood from him. But Stain kept misreading Ida's movements, and he got kicked by Ida's foot. At Koisan's room, Koisan kicked her right foot for a second. Jigoku noticed this. Huh? Back at the fight, Ida then punches Stain, and Koisan then punches the air. What's going on? Back at the fight, Ida was putting up a good fight, but Stain was more experienced in fighting than him. Stain would perform fighting maneuvers that would take Ida by surprise and off balance, but he would immediately recover himself. Though Stain had more techniques, Ida had the stamina to last long. That, and he had a whole lot of adrenaline flowing throughout his body. Koisan's heart started racing as she keeps doing air fighting. Koisan, what's going on? Asked Jigoku. Suddenly, Koisan sat up from her hospital bed. Jigoku says, Koisan, you're awake! Here, wait here, I'm gonna go get a doctor. She leaves the room, but Koisan looks like she's possessed. Her eyes kept looking forward like she's in some sort of autopilot. She then removes all the medical equipment from her body and got out of bed. She falls to her knees, but she quickly gets up and she stumbles towards the door. She gets outside and a nurse is surprised to see her walking. They try to stop her, but she picks up speed, and soon she makes it outside of the bunker and into the dark desert. She was then covered by Hati, who ran with all her might, and as she ran, Ida's shadow started emitting this white light around Koisan's arm, and Hati ran into this shadowy canyon and into the abyss, and uses Ida's arm shadow to teleport them back to its original owner. Back at the fight, Ida was on the ground, paralyzed, with a knife piercing through his shoulder. Before Stain could finish him off, he felt someone grab his arm. He looks, and he sees a girl wearing a hospital gown. What the hell? Ida looks up. Koisan? Stain was struck in the head by Koisan's punch. The impact was so strong that he ended up flying backwards, breaking the glass, and he landed outside in the streets. Before Stain could regain his composure, he sees this wolf girl coming right at him. He gets into a fighting stance and he draws his blade and he charges at her. He slashes at her, but she covered herself in her shadow that Stain's blade went completely through her without even hurting her. So he tries again and again, but he couldn't get anything on her. She then reaches out to the side and she forms a weapon and she attacks Stain. Stain then sneakily drew a small blade and threw it at Koisan, cutting her facial cheek. and blood was on the knife, he quickly retrieved the knife and he licked the blood and expected her to fall down. But no, she kept moving. And you see there's a reason for this. The reason why Koi-san didn't go down is because she's still in the coma. Hati is the one fighting right now. Stain continues, and he stares in bewilderment. What the hell are you? He says this while charging at her with a sword, battered back. Koi-san then raises her right hand up where Ida's shadow was on her palm. When Stain's blade came in contact with her hand, the blade shattered into pieces. Stain found himself bewildered, like, what the hell? And then Koi-san then punches him in the chest, causing him to fly backwards and into a wall, causing the wall to crack, and Stain's ribs to crack in the process. Stain starts coughing up his own blood, and all he could focus on was breathing. He looks up and he sees this wolf girl walking towards him, and a purple aura surrounds her body, and this aura then forms into this giant wolf with Hati revealing herself. She stared down at Stain with her glowing red eyes as she devours him alive. Stain could not scream. All he could do was count his sins as he found himself falling into pieces as he was devoured by this giant wolf girl. It ends, and Koi-san walks back into the building where Ida and Native was. She starts stumbling around. Hati was passing out again, and she falls in front of Ida, and just before she passes out, she gave Ida his arm shadow back so that he may use it again. Ida, finding himself to move again, goes to Koi-san, making sure she's okay. Ida then, to his surprise, picks her up with both of his arms. My arm, I can use it again. He then goes over to Native and asking if he's okay, but Native's more worried about Ida because he's bleeding from his shoulder. Ida says that he'll be fine and that he needs to get the girl to a hospital. I don't know where the hero killer is, but I'll be sure to be careful. Native was shocked, for he did saw what happened to the hero killer Stain, but even he couldn't believe his own eyes on what he thought he saw. Ida calls an ambulance for Native, but Ida took Koi-san to the hospital on foot. They immediately took her and Ida away to get them looked at. They saw her scars and her cut marks. They even saw the feeding tube in her stomach. It was hard for the doctors to dictate what was exactly going on with this girl, considering the fact that she's never been to this hospital before, or a reason why she's wearing a hospital gown in the first place. But the doctors were able to stabilize her. Ida was then stitched up, and so was Native. The police came to talk to them about what happened, and they both mentioned the hero killer had disappeared, although Native just decided to believe that part was all in his head. It's the next day, and the sun has risen, and Ida would inform everyone in class that Koi-san is in a public hospital, and they would all come visit her, even Jigoku, who was worried about her where she went last night. They arrive, surrounding her bed. Some would comment about how beat up she looks, but at the same time, she looks beautiful when she's sleeping. Ida was present in the room, and people asked him what happened, to which Ida would tell them that Stain attacked him and Native. Shoto tightly clenches Koi-san's hand, and she says, "Wait, she saved you?" "Yes, she did. I owe her a lot. You know, this is the third time she saved my life." Ida starts reflecting on the times that his life was in danger, and in the last moment, Koi-san would always be there to save him. At that moment, Ida started to feel weak, and he thought he was careless for getting himself in danger like that, and Koi-san. He wanted to be better. He wanted to be faster. He wanted to be more like Koi-san. Oh, Ida, if only you knew. Suddenly, Koi-san started grunting, and her eyes slowly start to open, and the first person that she saw was Jaigoku, in the sunlight behind her. You guys, she's waking up! Koi-san, are you okay? She spoke in a tired voice. Jaigoku, what happened? It's okay. It's gonna all be okay, Koi-san. Quick, tell me, what happened in the USJ? Koi-san's eyes slowly start to close as she falls back into the coma. Jaigoku starts freaking out. She yells Koi-san's name over and over again. She was in so much denial that she started shaking her violently, yelling her name louder. It took almost everyone in class to get her off of Koi-san. Yaoyorozu tells her that it's fine and that she just fell back into the coma. But why? Asked Jaigoku. I thought I was gonna get her back. I'm sorry, but this just happens sometimes. And unfortunately, her body just wasn't ready yet. I'm sorry. She then got up and left the room, and informed All For One that she had found her, excuse me. And All For One would tell her, good, the project is ready. While in the room, everyone was saying their thanks to Koi-san for protecting them. Sadly, their reunion was short when two men entered the room and took Koi-san away. They wanted to know where they were taking her, but Jaigoku told them that they're taking her back to the original hospital where she came from. Soon, they make it back to the bunker, and they attach Koi-san to a sort of machine that had a few accessories for her body. They had this sort of vest that wrapped around her chest, these gauntlets that went around her hand, and this sort of headgear that had wires, and all of these wires from her chest to her hands to her head attached to a machine. And just above that machine, there was this sort of dome that's purpose was to show how much was filled with it. All For One explains that this machine can extract, manipulate, and contort energy. You see, if what Koi-san told me was true, that Mani stole the moon goddess's powers, then this machine should give us the advantage to use those powers, and we can put Koi-san into the abyss, and we can fast forward time, hopefully to a time when she'll wake up. But if we go so far that she wakes up when she's elderly, well, I'm afraid that that's all we can do for her. Jaigoku is a bit scared, and she says, and if there's a chance that we rewind her so far that, well, she becomes elderly and still doesn't wake up at all, or even breathe. All For One looks at her and says, let's cross our fingers. They start the machine, and almost immediately, Koi-san's body started jolting as if it was being hit by electricity. The lights around them started flickering, and Koi-san's powers go haywire because her powers thought that she was in danger, therefore it's trying to protect her. A black aura surrounds her body, and the glass dome on top of the machine starts filling up. It only got a little bit of her energy, but that should be enough, to which All For One stops the machine. A scientist then pushes a button, and a portal to the abyss opens. And then two men in hazmat suits enter, and they remove all the equipment from Koi-san's body, and they gently pick her up and carry her inside, into the abyss. Soon, they walk out, and the scientist turns a knob, slowly, making time pass inside the abyss. 1 month has passed. Nothing. 2 months. 3 months. 4 months. Jaigoku is frightened. Is she not going to wake up at all? It continues to a year. Then 2 years. Then 3 years. Then 4 years. It wasn't until they reached the 5th year that they heard coughing noises. You see, because they installed a microphone into her ear. They hear Koi-san's voice. What? What's going on? All for One speaks into the microphone, and Koi-san can hear his voice. Daddy, is that you? Yes, Koi-san. It's me. We managed to open a portal to the abyss, and sadly we had to make 5 years pass for you to wake up. I feel so much pain in my stomach. All for One instructs her not to look at her stomach area, for she was hurt very badly. Luckily, duly note this, that because of the time skip, her bruises and her wounds did heal, and her bones as well. Just so you guys know. All for One asks, what's the last thing that she remembers? I escaped from the USJ, and there was this man with white hair. He worked for a whole overhaul and said that I and Jigoku and Tomura needed to be taken care of. Koe-san thinks of Hati and calls her name out of worry. Hati, where are you? She wakes up just as exhausted as Koe-san was. I'm right here, child. I'm fine. We're fine now. Koe-san hugs her snout, and tears run down her face. All for One says, Koe-san, are you able to move normally? Yeah, I think so. Okay, good. Do you feel comfortable coming out of the abyss? Yeah, I'm fine. Koe-san and Hati leave the abyss, and just as soon as she exits the abyss and touches the ground, it felt like gravity was pushing on her. She stumbled around, but Hati was there to keep her up. Jigoku ushered over to Koe-san and hugged her. Jigoku speaks, but she's trying her best to hold back her tears. Koe-san, you're actually awake. Thank goodness. Koe-san hugs her back and says, Hey, Shoto. Hey, Jigoku. Excuse me. Hey, Jigoku. How long has it been? You've been asleep for about a month and a half. Oh, man. Where's Tomura? It's quiet for a moment, and Shoto's happy expression turns to sadness. She asks again, Guys, what happened? All for One tells them that Tomura has gone missing, and they're not entirely sure what happened to him. Koe-san then starts sniffing the air, as she got a faint scent of where he was, and she starts following the scent. All for One says, Koe-san, where are you going? Koe-san says, I can smell him. He's nearby. They follow her, and she heads outside of the bunker. The sun was just overhead, and the tumbleweeds were rolling around in the wind. All for One says, Koe-san, we've checked all over here. He's not out here. No, I can smell him. His smell is getting stronger. He's over there. But it smells a bit crisped. They walk over to a pile of rocks, and behind those pile of rocks were ashes. She slowly crouches down, and her heart starts racing as she inhales one more time, and then she jumps backwards. Oh my god! Hati catches her as she starts to tear up. Jigoku asks, What's wrong, Koe-san? Through her tears, That's him. That's Tomura. All for One checks the ashes and does in fact know that these are human remains. What the hell? What happened? Koe-san starts to crawl back towards the pile of ashes, tears still running down her face. She says, What happened to you? Why did this happen? Jigoku places a hand on her shoulder, trying to get her back inside of the bunker, I'm sorry, there's a whole lot of names going on around here. But Koe-san jolts back, not wanting to leave what was left of her brother. As she continues to tear up, her salt water then landed on the pile of ashes, and then something happened. You see, when her tears hit the ashes, the droplet then turned into a golden light, and the ashes brighten. The wind starts to pick up, and the ashes form a sort of tornado. Jigoku pulls Koe-san closer to protect her. All for One stood in front with his quirks ready to fight. The ashes slowly start to reform, and in the midst of the ashes start to form a body. And there stood Tomura with his black hair like when he was a kid. Everyone looks at his face, and he takes a deep breath and a cough. But something took their sight off his face for a moment. They realized that he was naked. Koe-san called his name, Tomura! He then turns to his attention and sees an awakened Koe-san. He smiles and tries to walk over to her, but he falls to the ground. And Koe-san quickly embraces him, and tears continue to run down her face. Tomura, you're okay. Tomura says, I'm okay, you were in a coma. For God knows how long. And you were just a pile of ashes not a few seconds ago. Can you remember what happened? He thinks for a second and says, it's a bit hazy, but I think I got hit by a meteorite. And I remember being in a lot of pain, but that's it. Well, it's good to have you back. Come on, we need to get you inside and get you some clothes. Wait, get me some what? He looks down, and he covers his man parts while blushing like a tomato out of embarrassment at him. They laugh, and Koe-san reaches at Tomura to help him up, when suddenly Tomura starts glowing a orange and red light, almost like fire. He quickly jumps back, yelling them to stay back. They all get back and watch as Tomura glows brighter and brighter. It was like his body was made out of metal, and he reached a temperature of 1,000 degrees. He glows brighter and brighter with each passing second, and then, out of nowhere, a wolf figure appears from behind Tomura. Like it popped out from his back. Kind of like how Koe-san does with Hati. Everyone stares in amazement. This wolf that was the color orange, that was also outlined white, with its facial features also being white. It looked over at Hati, and Hati looked back at it, as if she had seen a ghost. Tomura stood back, for he felt weird. What is this power? The two wolves approach each other, and Hati said in a questionable tone, Skull? Skull responded back, saying, Hati? And then Jigoku says, is this a family reunion? And that's where we're going to leave it for this story, you folks. My God, things are getting more juicier every time we read a new chapter. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you like this video, you already know what to do. Make that like button glow all the colors of the rainbows for about a second, and then let it turn blue. And stay that way. That's about it. That's all I got. If you made it to the end of this video, consider yourselves #blessed, and I will see you all in the next chapter. Goodbye.